So the Department of Basic Education says it has proposed the reduction of the 1 meter social distancing rule to 0.5 so that learners can come back to school on a daily basis. Minister Angie Motshekga says about 40% of the learning time was lost last year due to the rotational timetable. To help us take a look at the department's proposal, we're joined by Professor Mignon McCulloch, Executive Member of the South African Paediatric Association. Prof, a big thank you for squeezing us into your very busy schedule. I guess with the benefit of hindsight, what should we understand about this proposal, given the work and the children that you saw in 2021?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. And wow, this is really difficult, isn't it? This virus has played havoc with our lives. We thought it was just going to be 6 months, then a year, then 2 years, and now it seems like it's with us for a long time. I really feel for the government, I feel for the educators, I feel for the medical staff, and I feel for the parents and the young learners themselves. So there's no right or wrong answer. I think what we do know is that vaccines work. So we know the vaccines are safe, it's not a conspiracy theory, and we know that the vaccines have been given now to millions of adults and children worldwide. I was on a call last
Prof, unfortunately, it would appear that our connection is not that strong. I understand you are back with us. Please finish your thought.
Sorry about that. So I was just going to say, so we know that vaccines work. So the first thing I'm going to say is that all teachers should ensure that they are well vaccinated. So at least 2 vaccines, if not a third, as a booster. We know that teenagers now can have 2 vaccines. So we're suggesting that the teenagers between 12 and 17 have their 2 vaccines as well, because we know that people who have been vaccinated are not ending up very sick in hospital. We know they may get the virus, but they're not going to end up in a critical state in hospital. So that's really important, is to make sure that we are vaccinating everybody. We are positive about vaccinations. We don't make it scary stories or superstitions or false media about the vaccine. So I think for me that's the most important thing. Secondly, we know that school is not just about nutrition. Not just about education, but also about nutrition and safety. And so we completely hear what the Department of Education is saying. Kids worldwide have actually lost so much teaching time that we need to be getting our schools back on track. We need to be getting rid of rotational systems. We need to get the kids back every day. Masks are something that is easy to do. Social distancing, that's very controversial, whether you go 1 meter or a half a meter, but we know that during the holidays, I haven't seen any young teenagers or young children staying more than a meter apart from their friends. They're hugging their friends, they're right up close, and so what we're asking for is often the schools do not have adequate space for more than 1 meter, and so half a meter is probably acceptable. During the summer, open those windows, open those doors, make sure you've got good ventilation. So mask wearing, good ventilation in the classrooms, and we are actually supportive of the kids getting back to school on a daily basis. Not just for learning, but as we've said time and time again, school is about learning, but it's also about nutrition. It's about safety, safety for the learners, psychological safety. A lot of the teenagers have been really depressed, not seeing their friends, and also not being able to finish their school year, and also safety from being in car accidents or being driven over on the pavement, and also sexual safety. So we really want to get kids back to school. We want to get the schools back on track. And so the practical stuff that can be done is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. And if you've got a vulnerable child, instead of keeping them out of school, rather try and get them vaccinated. Get to wear those masks, because it's breathing on other people that's really important. If you want to eat or drink in a classroom, rather go and do that outside. And the social distancing is probably less important than actually wearing masks and being vaccinated. So that would be our take on the situation. But please, let's get those kids back to school, and let's get the teachers back to school as well.
How important is ventilation, Prof? And I ask you in a sense of teachers who have classes where they cannot socially distance, right? But they've got so many learners, and it's cold, and children are complaining about the cold weather.
You were just asking about school teachers who don't have classes that can socially distance. And I would actually say that in the summer, we're very lucky in South Africa at the moment. We've got the Omicron variant, but we can open windows and we can open doors and we can definitely allow good ventilation. I've chatted to some of my colleagues this week who are in the northern hemisphere where there's a lot of winter weather, and so for them it's very difficult to open the windows and open the doors. So that is something that we can do that's practically possible.
And psychosocial support starting from home, how important is that?
Yeah, so I think every time there's a new wave, there's definitely a sense of anxiety. I think in the healthcare workers, we feel that, the school teachers feel that, and I'm sure the parents feel that as well. But it's about just remaining calm. And we've said with this Omicron variant, it seems a lot milder. And if you've had a vaccine, it definitely is a lot milder than the previous variants. And so parents can rest assured that this variant does not seem to be as potentially fatal as the previous ones, especially if you're vaccinated. And I'm going to keep harping on the vaccination, because if you're vaccinated, it's safe for teachers and for the teenagers. And I'm sure in time we'll be vaccinating the younger kids, but the most vulnerable are people who are older and who've got comorbidities. So I think if a family feels that the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, and the parents and the teenagers are well vaccinated, that will really allay a lot of the fears, and people can then feel calm about moving forward this year, because COVID is going to be with us for this year, possibly even for next year. It's probably going to become like the flu virus, where we need a vaccination every year.
With the work that you do, Prof, working with children, in the 2 years that we have been with COVID in this country, what did you see in terms of, immune systems being compromised of children, and what was that attributed to?
So what we've seen is that the children are not lying in rows on ventilators or breathing machines in the ICU like we've seen with elder adults or grandparents or aunts or uncles. So first, second and third wave, we saw devastation amongst the adults, and that was really terrible. The current wave seems to have more children who are COVID positive but are not necessarily sick with it. So in our hospital, for example, quite a lot of children come in with a COVID test that's positive, but they've come in because they've had a broken arm, they've fallen off their bicycle, they've come in for a hernia or an appendix operation, and so they are what we call incidentally positive, but not terribly sick with it. Our ICUs are definitely not full of very many normal children who have got COVID and who are sick with COVID. Lots of incidentals, so there are lots of children who've got the same as there are lots of adults, and we've seen the Omicron is definitely more contagious. So you'll see an entire family who've had a Christmas meal together, everybody in the family has been sick. But we are not seeing hundreds and hundreds of critically ill children. And so because of that, we're saying, let's get as many people vaccinated as we can, and let's start the school year as normally as we can. Try and stop the rotational system. If you can't socially distance, then try and ventilate the room, but make sure everybody that can be vaccinated is vaccinated. And it's interesting, Costa Rica as a country is now making it mandatory for children to be vaccinated as well, because they're trying to improve their rate of vaccination in the country for not only adults but for children as well. I'm not sure we're there yet, but definitely get the teachers vaccinated. And the teenagers, often the teenagers are saying they want to be vaccinated because they want to hang out with their friends, they want to go to parties, they want to socialize with their friends. And so if they're doing that out of school, if you can't do that in school, then it's probably not the end of the world. But if everybody is wearing a mask and you have good ventilation in the classroom, I think that's probably the best that we can offer at the moment. But we can't let these kids lose 3, 4, 5 years of schooling. It's just really sad for our country. And that's not just in South Africa, but it's happening worldwide. So I think we need to stay calm. We need to be sensible, we need to get the kids back to school, and we need to continue to vaccinate. In South Africa, we're not very good about taking up the vaccination, but it's a safe vaccine. It's now been around for 2 years. So anybody who said they didn't know much about the vaccine, we now know it's a safe vaccine, and so we're encouraging people to do that.
Professor Mignon McCulloch, Executive Member of the South African Paediatric Association, a big thank you for your time this afternoon.